See, I think that's, like, every kid's dream, the end of that movie is to, like, picture, like, being bullied and then have a Falcor show up and teach the bullies a lesson, so
Well, audience, welcome back to Core Memory, a podcast about movies. I'm your host, Cortney Warner. And this week, I am so excited because we have an actress, a writer, a director, and the founder of Gadabout Theater, and a dear friend of mine. Please welcome everyone, Stephanie Houghton. Ah, ah. Oh my
Hello.
goodness. Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
I am good. I am very excited to be here.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm so stoked. You brought some banger movies for sure this week, which I'm really excited to talk about. So Stephanie's picks for the first movie she remembers seeing is NeverEnding Story, a classic, and her favorite movie currently as an adult is the original Fright Night. So I'm so excited to get into this. There's a lot to unpack with both of these movies. So Stephanie, let's start off with NeverEnding Story. So just for some stats for the audience, it came out in 1984, directed by Wolfgang Peterson. What a hell of
Mhm.
a name! And stars Noah Hathaway and Barrett Oliver and Alan Oppenheimer. Not no relation to the to J. Robert Oppenheimer, apparently. I looked that up. So Stephanie, can you tell me about the first time you saw this movie and like what you remember about it?
Ooh, well, it's hard because it was hard trying to remember the first one because there's a few different fantasy movies from
Mhm.
that era that I watched a lot of, but this was the one I feel like was one of the first or the ones that stuck in my memory the
Yeah,
most,
yeah.
so it just stuck with me the most, but, I remember crying during it over
Mhm.
certain things that happened. I remember I was scared. I was so scared of the wolf Gamork or whatever
Dude,
that thing was. I
yeah.
would cover my eyes when I was a kid. I remember. I have a memory of covering my eyes during
Yeah.
those scenes from this movie. And then just yeah, and Falco. Oh, so many. There were so many cool characters and imaginative, world to it that it just yeah, just blew me away, I guess, when I
Yeah.
was younger.
No, definitely, and I mean, I did note here how traumatizing it was to watch his horse die, like, I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Traumatic. Yes, no, cried. I
Yeah.
was sobbing, yeah. So I was going through an emotional journey watching the movie, like,
Mhm.
definitely, definitely.
Oh, yeah, and I just feel like they don't make movies quite like this anymore for kids, you know? I know you have kids, you have a family where it's like, I feel like kids back in the '80s and the '90s and even early 2000s, like, we were subjected to some really fucked up stuff. But I feel like because the filmmakers were like, "Oh, kids can handle seeing this kinda thing." You know what I mean? And I think
Well,
I
and
think
historically, though, I feel like if you look back at, like, Grimm's fairy tales and
Mm,
all that stuff, like, it was dark. It
yeah.
wasn't until recently we're like, "Oh, no, kids can only see fluffy good things with
Right.
where everything's happy."
Oh,
So who knows what that means for society now, but I feel like historically, we'd always had dark children's stories.
dude, I agree because it's like, yeah, like, I mean, now, like, kids just are like, there's no true villains in any kids' movies. It's just like, "Oh, the villain was just, like, your anxiety," or, like, whatever the whole time. And I don't know if it's the oversimplification of therapy for people our age, you know, who have kids now, or because I feel like that built character, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like with a lot of these episodes that I've done so far, like one of the examples was Angels in the Outfield. That movie is traumatizing. That kid is getting beat up every angle, you know what I mean? But it was shown on like Disney Channel and stuff, you know?
I know.
So I feel like with Neverending Story, it was a fantastical story, but also like, I mean, heartbreaking and scary, like genuinely scary too, you know?
I was so scared. I remember covering my eyes,
Mhm.
not wanting to watch the big scary wolf guy. He was so
Yeah.
scary to me as a kid. Didn't like those scenes, but
Yeah.
I watched the movie anyway.
But right? It's so
Covering my
right?
eyes.
Because it's so good, and, like, this is something that I feel like maybe, like, I kind of reserve this because I think that you might relate to this or at least understand what I'm talking about, but I feel like Neverending Story reminds me a lot of, like, German New Wave movies. Uh, would you agree with that? Where it's like
I would yeah. No, I that's the other thing that's weird about it is it had this, like, German or
Mm,
European sensibility too
yes,
about it. That would not be a common thing in kids' movies now either too, but it was yeah,
right.
like yeah.
Yeah, like, I had the pleasure of, like, getting to watch Freak Orlando with some friends recently, which is a German New Wave film, and I was, like, rewatching NeverEnding Story, I'm like, "This is so similar," but, like, that was, like, post World War II, like, talking about, like, anti-fascism and all those things, and I feel like
Mm.
the imagery and all of that was very similar to NeverEnding Story, where I'm like, I feel like this is a lot heavier than a normal kids movie, you know what I mean? But I love it. And so how do you feel like it impacted you as a kid when you saw it?
Yeah, I think, well, I think there's things now that I don't even think as a kid I was picking up on that I pick up on obviously now.
Yeah.
Like now I like watch it and I think about, oh wow, and also this kid like lost his mom and he's also going through like, there's things that I'm picking up now that I'm like, oh, depth to the story that was lost on me as a small child. Um, but I think as a kid, like I said, it was probably that the wild ride
Mm.
and the emotions, like, like, oh my gosh, the horse scene, like that is brutal
You're like
still, so brutal.
yeah.
And also, like getting to meet all the people on the journey and I wanted a Falcor so bad. Like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so many cool, like so I just think that imagination and that yeah, that European sensibility that I
Mhm,
wasn't picking up on a kid that just was really unique
mhm,
and interesting to see. It was not like nothing else. Like I said, even if I think of like those other fantasy movies from the era, like they're not yeah, like I mean Labyrinth is cool, but
mm,
it's Jim Henson World, which is
yeah.
of course awesome, but that like I don't know, Neverending Story just went to um, weirder, darker, more interesting places and just was more epic in so many ways. So, I think that really intrigued me as a kid and then had me scared, excited, wanting to have that, some of those friends I've met along the way. So,
Mm.
it was just a really cool ride, I think, that's unique.
Yeah, I agree, where it's like it kinda starts out like a normal kids movie where it's like, "Oh, this kid is bullied, he likes to read, whatever," but then it's like you get dropped into this world where it's like I mean, from my understanding, all practical effects, absolutely beautiful imagery where it's like yeah, like, I think the horse scene I remember seeing this as a kid, it had been out for a minute at that point, I watched it and I was like, "Oh my god, this kid is losing his best friend," and it's like where it's like I just remember the emotional weight of, like, he's like, "No, come on, just fight the darkness." Then he's like, "Yeah, you stupid horse, get out." Like, he just turns immediately because he's grieving in the moment, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what a beautiful thing to show that, like, kids do that where it's like, "No, I care about you, but now I'm mad because I'm a kid and I don't understand why you're not doing what I'm telling you to do, which is for your own good." And that feels so like it's like such a thing that kids do, like, that parents try to do for their kids, but then kids are try to do it for, like, their pets or whatever, and they don't understand, like, "Why don't you do what's good for you? Come on, you stupid thing." And watching that just was like, oh, as a recent, like, cat owner, I'm like, "Oh god," you know? Like,
And it was so cool the way it was like a story within a story, and
mm,
then also he was in the story, right?
yeah.
Like, that was I mean, I was always a big reader too when I was
Mhm.
a kid. I've always loved books also, so I think there was probably something that, like, was captivating about that aspect of it, like, the fact that he had this book and he was reading it, and then he was in the book. It was like, yeah, he was the one who had so much power in the world, so yeah, I think that was also very, very cool for me.
I think so too, because he was very like, because even at the end where he's just like, "I can't do this. I can't I need to keep my feet on the ground." It's like, "No, you have the power to do this." And it's just like it was just so cool to see that this one kid had so much power based on his imagination and, like, what he was doing, 'cause I feel like, as someone who's been in therapy too, I feel like he very much has the power of disassociation, like like, where he's just like, "No, I'm in charge in this world," you know, but it ended up being a very fantastical, beautiful world, and yeah, I feel like Labyrinth kind of fits in that category, but also, like, not in the same way where it's just like, I don't think there's that many other kids movies from that time that it really, like, go toe to toe with that movie, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there's some maybe similar but yeah, I just think Neverending Story went deeper and weirder and darker and, stood out more.
Yeah. Have you shown your
I could also talk about Labyrinth a long time because I watched that as a kid too,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, as like a core memory,
Yes.
NeverEnding Story really stood out.
Yes, and
I
have you shown your kids, NeverEnding Story?
I have, and they were n it did not have the impact. Though, I
Yeah.
think I have made a mistake as a parent where I've tried to show kids sometimes movies, like, too early because 'cause I'm
Mm.
like, "I was a kid when I watched this, are you ready to watch it? You're,
Yeah.
like, 6 or 7," and I'm like, "Oh, you're not I must what? No, you're not ready yet," so I need to retry.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
there is a thing among kids now where they're like, "I don't wanna like what you like. This looks old," or I don't know, sometimes, so
Oh, always, and then eventually when they get to be, like, a preteen, they're like, "Oh, no, this is cool now." It's like, "No, this is, like, the 2000s are now very cool," and I'm like, this is my nightmare." You know what I mean?
So I haven't given up hope that somehow it'll become a memorable movie for them, but it is not happened yet. It's not
I think
worked out.
I think it'll happen. I think eventually because I feel like practical effects are coming back into the forefront in movies because everyone's sick of CGI. The kids are gonna be like, "Well, what else has practical effects?" And I think NeverEnding Story is gonna be, like, top of that list, you know what I mean?
Mhm. I always wanna put it on like, for some reason, I always see, I watch it so much or it has so much core memory, like, sometimes when it's, like, stormy outside and lightning, I'll remember there's this scene where he's up in the school attic, which what
Yes.
school even has an attic like that? I don't know, but I picture him up there and it's lightning and he's with the book and he's yelling at the book, or so I'll get, like, stormy weather vibes will make me think of Neverending Story
Yeah.
and wish I had a school with a cool attic that could have hidden it.
Right? I mean, and I feel like with Neverending Story too, I've seen it like parodied or referenced in so many other forms of media because I feel like, people from in the 80s and the 90s are now in charge of making TV shows and movies where you see references. One that think of specifically is that Workaholics made a reference to Neverending Story in like season 2 or 3 where they decorate their car like the dragon. And I'm just like, this is amazing.
Amazing. I have not seen that episode, so I should check it
You
out.
should definitely check it out. And so I guess you already kinda answered this, but so do you still love this movie? And, like, how does it impact you now as an adult versus how it impacted you as a kid?
Yes, I still love it. I try to make sure to watch it every few
Mhm.
years, now as I'm trying to show it to my kids and show it to them again, so I've been trying to rewatch it more, and I think everything that I liked about it as a kid is still in place. I'm still so sad with the horse. I'm still so sad when Artet yeah, that scene is still brutal, I
Yeah.
think, and I'm not as scared. I don't cover my eyes anymore. I can handle it. But I still think it is as innovative and epic and full journey as I always thought it was. And then now I get more depth from thinking of like, oh, and then the kids going through grief.
Mm.
And this is, like I think I've picked up on more of like some of those, deeper emotional nuances for the main kid reading the book
Yeah.
that I didn't when I was a kid.
Yeah. And did you ever see this? I know there were sequels made. Have you seen the sequels?
Funny thing, I have not seen the sequels, even though I'm pretty sure Neverending Story 2, I think, had Jonathan Brandis,
Mm,
the
yes.
actor in it, who I
Oh,
actually had a massive crush on when I was younger, or was he in the 3rd one? He was in somebody I had a crush on when I was a teenager
yeah.
was in them, but I just somehow didn't see it. I don't know if it wasn't on, like, HBO or something enough, or I didn't get to rent it from the video store, but yeah,
Yeah.
I never saw it. I
Damn.
suspect they're not very good.
Yeah, I would assume so too, because yeah, because when I Googled it, I was just like, "Oh, there's more." Because I definitely remember the first one being shown as a kid, like, in, like, VHS, like, Hollywood Video Blockbuster, like, that was just one that was around a lot, and just referenced a lot, and then I didn't know there were more, but Jonathan Brandis, what a callback, what a shout out, you know?
And saw Ladybugs in the theater and
Ugh.
Sidekicks, but I somehow missed, like, Neverending Story 2 or 3 or whichever one he was
You're
in, but
probably
yeah.
better off for it. It was also like, I mean, yeah, Jonathan Brandis was a heartthrob. I mean, because 'cause I'm one of those names that just is kinda lost in the ether, you know what I mean?
He is, but I bet he didn't make the movie good that
No.
was future Neverending Story movie, yeah, so but who knows, maybe I should watch those and see if they, like, were hidden gems, but
I think for a Gadabout hang, you should show all of 'em. And just like,
Guess what,
yeah,
theater troupe? We're gonna watch a trilogy or whatever there is of NeverEnding Story
yeah,
movies, and
Stephanie's personal
fires us.
interests. Just like, what does this have to relate to any play we're about to do? Oh, it doesn't. It actually doesn't at all.
I do love to wrap in movie screenings based on or what our theater we're doing,
Mhm.
but that is a stretch, but maybe I can find a way.
I think that you should do an adaptation of a Never-Ending Story. I could
Just one of the random sequels, not the first one,
no,
just like
no, because then you can, like, get probably copyrights are probably not that hard because no one gave a shit, and you can probably, like
mm.
I'm already picturing, that you can, like, maybe, like, make your own little vehicle with, like, a dragon on it that, can, like, drive around the East Room or Third Coast or something?
I would love to do that. I would love to do that, yeah.
Oh my god.
Falcor was the coolest. Can you imagine if you especially if kids were, like, bullying you and then a Falcor showed up and,
Yeah.
like, took you away? That would be amazing.
Oh my god, I know, and then just, like, like, they jump in the trash can and just be like, "Oh, there's" like, "How does it feel now to be bullied?" It's like,
See,
"Oh,
I think that's, like, every kid's dream, the end of that movie is to, like, picture, like, being bullied and then have a Falcor show up and teach the bullies a
absolutely."
lesson.
Yes. I think it would be fun, and, like, this is all gonna say in the podcast because at this point, if they've listened long enough, they know that this is just is what it is, but I think that Gadabout Theater should do, like, a Where Are They Now from Neverending Story,
But
and
everybody
just,
who's
like
in it?
yes, to just be like, have, like, the princess, but she's, like, 80 years old, and she's like, "Yeah, I still look like a kid, right? I still look like I'm 20 years old,
He's
right?"
like, "I'm just
Like
still running Fantasia, and I haven't aged, and"
yeah. Yeah, I 'cause I mean, like, that could be fun because and again, it's very funny, like, just kinda like this is also just a tangent where it's like, you have, Neverending Story, young princess, and you think about, like, Dune came out around that same time. Very young, like, little lady that's in that movie too, that's kind of all it's just interesting that, like, the '80s movies are like, "Who can save us?" It's like, "Oh, this child." You know what I mean?
there were a few oh my gosh, did you ever see this crazy movie called The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy?
I didn't, but I know what you're talking about, but I
It
haven't
was
seen it.
another weird like, there's some magical child to save the world or something. I don't know why,
Yeah.
that was a weird movie also, but it
It
was
it's kinda it's like hero's journey with, like, the main characters, but then also, like but, like, the actual hero is, like, this child that you need to save, who's like a 10-year-old little girl, you know what I mean?
Willow had a baby
Yes.
now see? It was like a thing, you're right.
Yes,
Willow was
yeah,
another fantasy movie I watched a lot as a kid, but yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
and I wonder if it's just because it's like, "Oh, these are kids' movies," like, how can every kid see themselves in a role, and maybe this is, like, like, where it's like, "Oh, like, the boys are gonna be the heroes, but the girls need to be part of the movie too, so let's make them, like, the damsel in distress," where it's like, everyone can see themselves as everybody, but I wonder if that was, like, part of the logic behind it?
Well, because there was like a girl often or a princess or whatever, but somebody had to save or protect or get the
Mhm.
princess to wherever, so yeah, there was yeah, that was
And
a
I'm
theme, that was a thing going on in the '80s.
yeah, '80s, like, into the early '90s, I will be honest, I didn't realize that both the kid who was, reading the book and the main character were different people for a long time. I didn't know. Call me racist against white people, I don't fucking know, but, like, I just couldn't tell, I didn't realize.
That was probably something that was, like, hard to wrap my brain around as a kid too even, like, "Who are these characters?" Yeah, but it was yeah, that's fair. I was, see, probably not even understanding the full movie.
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh, well, this kid is a self-insert, and he's a savior," but then it's, like, at the end where they're like, "We need a child who's not from this world," and it's like, "Well, wait, what?"
It's just like, "Me?"
Yeah, like, "Me? I have to say the name?" It's like, "It's inside of you," and I'm like, I rewatched it just today, and I'm like, "What the fuck is even the name?" I don't know, he, like, growls it through the book, I don't really know.
None of that mattered, Courtney. It was cool as
No.
shit. There
Yeah.
was the rock guy with the hands,
Yes.
and he's like, "These hands," like, and yeah, and the snail guy. There was so many cool, weird things. That's all that mattered.
And even, like, yes, that's all who gives a shit, and even, like, and I'm like, "Who does it even matter how the princess gets saved?" Because all of it was very cool. Because like, even, like Even the humor of it where, like, the turtle is just like, "Oh, I'm allergic to youth," because he's like, "Are you sick or something?" He's like, "No, I'm allergic to children or youth or whatever." It's like, "Oh, that's pretty funny." It's like, "'Cause they're all so old," and he's like, "Well, I'm old. I'm not gonna do shit about this. I'm not gonna do shit about fuck with this princess," you know?
It's such a weird movie.
It's amazing though, like, and it's just so iconic. It's so good where it's like when you watch it, you're just like, "This makes sense, right? This kinda makes sense. Wait a second," you know? But it's, like, so calcified in all of our psyches, you know what I mean? Because as a kid, you're just like, "Well, yeah, I'll watch this as it's on TV," you know?
Yeah, and then you just accept it for what it is, even if it makes sense or not.
Yeah, and I just wish more movies like that existed because even Jim Henson, like, there no one's doing shit with the Muppets, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, there's nothing going on with any of that where it's like, like, the Star Wars movies try to, like, bring in more, like, practical effects and all of that, but it still looks so polished and so, like, sterile, like, where it's like the movies like that where it's like you watch, like, the puppet of the dragon, his eyes are kind of flicking back and forth where it's like, clearly this puppet is not working the way it needs to be working. They're like, "This can't be a character flaw," but it's like they're just like he's like his eyes are, like, open, like he's winking, you know what I mean? And I'm like, they didn't have the budget to make sure his eyes opened at the same time.
I think it would be so cool if they made movies like that, though, that had practical
Me
effects or
too.
interesting, but I think if they ever make a movie like that now, they're just they'll be like, "We're going to do a animated version of NeverEnding Story
I
with digital
know.
effects," or yeah, there's no, like, new stuff like that that comes out.
No, there really isn't, and, like, this has kind of been the motif of this podcast too, because it's, like, friends revisiting old movies where it's like, "Man, this was, like, the first of its kind." It was so impactful that it's like, like, what are kids seeing now that it's like, "Oh, this changed my life as a kid." It's like Mean Girls 2, like, is that what changed their life? You know what I mean? Like, I just I don't even I mean, I'm maybe cynical because I don't have kids and I'm not in that world of what kids are watching, but it's just, like, I feel bad that they're not being taken as seriously because movies aren't as dark and aren't as serious, you know what I mean? And they're very, like it's, like, a lot of YouTube, a lot of placating the, like, loud noises and sounds and stuff from what I understand. I mean, maybe you have kids, so maybe you can kinda speak to that a little bit too.
And there are some good, like, kids movies, but I don't think any of them go as weird or dark or interesting. I think I've been seeing,
Mm.
like, like, books kids are reading or sometimes,
Mm.
like, TV shows really cool and interesting, but, yeah, I just don't know if movie-wise I can think of any good examples.
Yeah, like, what do you got? Like, Moana 2? Like, music by Lin-Manuel Miranda, he just raps over I mean, I don't dislike him. No, like, I don't Hamilton's cool, don't come for me, but it is just like, I don't know, it's like you don't have a lot of actors who are just voice actors who are doing kids' movies, and, like, they're just not taking the risks anymore because everything is shown in front of a focus group, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and I usually am very like, "No, I don't wanna watch this really bad-looking kids movie," so I'm very selective about what I'll
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll guess I'll watch this because maybe it's not terrible," and then I'll be like, "Yeah, it was kind of entertaining and funny here and there," but nothing's, like, really groundbreaking or interesting for kids.
Yeah, because I feel like that time period too, you had NeverEnding Story, then I think around that time you also had Goonies, E.T., like, all those movies kinda coming out around the mid to late '80s, you know what I mean? Where it's just, like, just banger after banger that still hold up, where it's like, I can't think of anything that's coming out today that I'll be like, "Yeah, I really thought this movie was fantastic." You know what I mean? After 20 years or 30 years or whatever, you know?
Well, and there Dark Crystal, speaking of Jim Henson, that was dark.
Yes.
That was so dark. I actually tried to show that to
Oh.
my kids, and they're like, "I'm scared, turn it off." I was like, "What do you mean? I watched this as a kid, and I too was
Yes!
scared, but I watched it." Like, come on.
Yes!
Get stronger. It's fine.
Yeah, "You fucking pussies," you know?
You can handle the sexies? Sorry. The Gelsons will
Yes,
be around soon, but yeah, like, it's so dark and weird, and the puppetry was scary. Yeah, there's so many dark, bizarre '80s kids movies.
yeah, and I wanted to like, like the puppetry and everything where it's like they were figuring out how to make things look that now that they figured it out where it's like, "Oh, we know how to make something very cute and palatable." Whereas like as us as kids, we're like we were subjected to people experimenting with like, "How do we make this like weird thing move?" Like, "Oh, it's horrifying, but also it's kind of cute." You know what I mean? Where like we were maybe traumatized like because people were just at the time figuring it out where now they don't have to figure it out as much, you know?
Yeah, just make like a digital dragon and boom. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't
Right.
know how to make special effects for movies. I'm not
Oh,
saying you do it in 5 seconds, but I think it's
right.
very different than trying to come up with like puppetry or practical effects. So,
Agreed.
mm,
Which I think that Gadabout should do a whole puppet show at some point, and I would love to be part of it.
that sounds amazing.
I I was I don't know if you knew this, but I was also part of a puppet troupe for like 5 years through my church. We did puppet ministry and we made puppets and traveled around, and I would just love to do
I
that.
feel like I've met other people who've done puppet shows or things. So yes, maybe this is what we're deciding. This should be a good idea because there's a path
Yes.
towards puppetry here.
I think
Great.
so, and I mean, I just see that in like and then kids need to be introduced to like puppets and like practical effects and all that stuff. 'Cause it's just like I mean, I remember as a kid seeing puppet shows like through our church and through like other community things. That was just like there was really no Netflix or YouTube or whatever. So it's like, oh well, we'll take the kids to go see like a live puppet show. You know what I mean?
I think they still have a sort of like puppetry show performance schedules through the National Public Library. Like, they have, like, a whole wing and people do, like, puppetry stuff there, so
That
puppetry's
has
out
to
there.
happen.
It's out.
Yes, I mean, an audience, because Stephanie and I have worked together on a few, like, productions before. This is actually one that you weren't part of, but I think a puppet show of Hookman would be very compelling.
Beat up in the back of the car.
Yes. I think and Hookman, for the audience who's listening, it is a horror comedy play, black box theater play, and where my character at the time got her face cut off, and it was very fun, but I'm just saying, like, have a Miss Piggy get her face cut off, like, how great would that be,
There's
you know?
probably not enough plays where puppets' faces get cut off,
I'm just
so
saying, you, like, have one face and then you cut it off and, "Oh, here's another face that we fully made out of felt and, like, crayons."
it's just cotton underneath. You just pull it off and it's
Yes.
fluff.
Yes, but some yes, oh my god. Stephanie, we're writing a whole ass show right here, you know?
Or just like a slasher puppet show. Sounds great, actually.
Oh my god, that'd be
Oh.
so funny. We can do that at Springwater because as we've talked with our friends at Springwater, who else would put that up? A slasher puppet show?
And then we can have, like, heavy metal horror bands play in between and, like, the little breaks
Yes.
as we're like, "Oh, no, we've got to change sets and puppets," and we'll run off, and yeah, it's
Holy
perfect. We've created a new
ho
show tonight.
we have a whole ass show. So we have a whole ass show. I'm thinking like it's kind of like it's like Muppets meets like Mandy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That'd be
Yes.
so fun. Oh my god. That let's do it. We have to do it.
Done. We're doing it.
We're doing it. Uh, Coming in spring 2026, we have The Muppets Take Mandy. I don't know, or
Muppets
something like that.
Take Me! Oh my gosh.
It's just I'm just thinking the music and like the how extreme and all the flashing lights, that could be very fun. Um, but speaking of horror, let's move on to your favorite movie that you brought with us tonight. One of your favorite
Well,
movies.
yes, it's like my favorite from childhood horror, first horror movie. It's probably not my current
Yes.
favorite anymore, but I rewatched it, like, last year. Really held up. Really held up.
It's so good. Yeah, it's solid. So audience, for some stats, we have Fright Night. We have the original from 1985, directed by Tom Holland, no relation to Spider-Man. In
But
case we
later, Child's Play fame. Yep.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
yes! So that name carries a lot of weight in Hollywood. It's starring Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, and Amanda Berries, I believe is how you pronounce her name.
Yeah.
Uh, solid cast, stacked cast. I rewatched it today as well. What a fun movie, honestly.
It really held up. It was the first scary movie I really remember watching, and I
Mhm.
remember, like, being, like, covering my eyes because I still cover my eyes during horror movies sometimes. I watch them all
Yeah.
the time, but I will cover my eyes and be under a blanket, and I have a memory of my younger sister, who's, like, 4 years younger than me, just being, like, glued to the TV and watching it, and my sister has since gone on
Mhm.
to have, like, a room filled with, like, horror memorabilia and just it's very horror movie, so
Oh,
because it impacted her
yes.
life very strongly. But yeah, it was just well, yeah, and I remember watching it a lot as a kid. I think I thought it was so cool how they had, like, the horror movie host played by Roddy McDowall show
Yeah.
up, and and plus, like, vampires were interesting, cool, and, like, an
So
interesting
cool.
monster to learn about anyway, so I loved it, and then I rewatched it, and I think it's super solid still.
I do too. Like, I mean, like it's so like so well made, and like where it's like it's still you could play it like in a midnight movie and people aren't gonna cringe like, oh, that's uncomfortable or like that's weird, you know? It holds up. It's also really fucking funny. I will say my first introduction to Fright Night was the 2011 remake with David Tennant. Because I was obsessed with him because of Doctor Who at the time.
I
So that was my introduction to Fright Night.
finally just watched that last year, and I didn't hate it, but I thought the
Okay.
original was a lot better.
I'll be real, I do think it is better because I do find, like, because they made David Tennant be, like, this badass, he's, like, the host of the TV show, and he's like, "I'm here, I'm fighting with you guys," where it's like, I found it more compelling that the original guy was like, "No, I'm a fraud, I don't know what's going on, I am my little holy water is tap water, actually," and I was like, "That's, like, more interesting, honestly," you know?
And I didn't like Colin Farrell's new vampire portrayal as much. I love,
No.
like, the way Chris Sarandon just plays in this, like, very suave
Mm.
really is like a sexy guy with seducing women and, like, Chris
Yes.
Sarandon but, yeah, I just thought it was a better I don't know. And I thought it was funnier, it just played more low key and I don't know. I
I agree because I feel like and I don't know if it was just, like, the time period of, like, the 2010s where it's, like, all very over the top horror and all that stuff, but it was so egregious where it's, like, even, like, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, he played, like, the evil the guy who played yeah,
in the
in the remake where he, like, turned into a vampire, but he was so over the top where it's just, like, "Yeah, this guy's gonna get killed." Where it's, like, in the originally, you don't know what's gonna happen because it is played like a teen angst movie, but also a horror movie, and it's like it's nice that you don't really know where it's gonna go if you've never seen anything from this, like, franchise before, you know?
Yeah,
But yeah.
I think that there was also cooler, like I mean, once again, practical effects were in there because there are later some, like, bats and vampire transformation
Yes.
gruesome stuff, and it was like, again, you didn't have all the digital effects, so again, cooler.
Yeah, and also, yeah, like, Colin Farrell was more of a creep in that remake, you know what I mean? Where he's just like he's there, he's like, "Can I come in?" And it's just like oh my god, he's from Star Trek. Who died? Anton Yelnats, he was the
Oh,
main
yes,
guy.
yes, yes.
RIP, he died, he was in Star Trek reboot, but he was like, "What do you mean, can you come in?" It's like this whole back and forth where it's like in the original, it's like they are so sexy and suave where they're like, "Oh, we're just neighbors in this little neighborhood that's like cul-de-sac, whatever," you know what I mean? And it's just like I feel like it definitely did tip its hand too much, you know?
Yeah, I thought Colin Farrell's performance was a lot more over the top and, like, not as fun as the original where he was just like, "Hey, I'm your neighbor and I'm a vampire. Don't tell me or I'll kill you." I got like it.
Right. Like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna eat you later on slash convert you." So so can you describe the first time seeing the original Fright Night? Like, do you remember, like, a specific time? I know you said your sister would watch all these things,
Yeah.
but do you have a moment?
Well, I don't remember how old I was. I totally can remember being in, my, parents' house, and, like, we had, like, our living room next to our dining room, and I was in behind the doorway of the dining room peeking in, like, watching.
Yeah.
Like, "What's gonna happen?" So I remember I think it was because like, it was one of, like, the first horror movies I were watching, and I just remember
Mhm.
that, like, feeling of being like, "Oh, no, what's gonna happen?" And it is, like, kind of a horror comedy, so it's not, like,
Yeah.
across the board, like, scary the whole time, but then as it
Mhm.
progresses and, like, the vampire is, like, stalking them and his friend then
Yeah.
like, they're in the house and the bats fly there's vampire bats and all this stuff, and it was kinda gruesome and creepy with the guy what's the guy who gets, like he's got filled with bugs in him or something? Like, that's
Yes.
gross, I hated that 'cause I was scared of bugs, so I think I
Yeah.
hated that when I was a kid because I was so grossed out by, like, some of that stuff. With his, like what is that? Like, Renfield, his what's
Yes.
that?
Yeah, yeah, yes. Oh god, yeah, that was awful.
Oh. So, yes, stuff like that. that free when they're being stalked by the vampire. But then they run in
Mm.
a club and he like sexy dances with a girlfriend, not scary.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, yeah, his best friend just got converted, but also now he's diddling his girlfriend. Okay.
It was that like whole thing with vampires being able to seduce people, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've been kind of fascinated by how vampire movies, how they can kind of like pick and choose what rules to follow and which ones are there. But I think that one like followed a lot of the very classic like Dracula
Mm.
and old school vampire rules. Like you can't come in unless you're invited. So too
Yeah.
bad Charlie's mom invites the neighbor over for dinner. Oops, and stuff like that. Like like
Yeah.
he turns into a bat at some point or is flying around. He seduces women. It was like all these like classic vampire things were like in there, like from the
Yeah.
original Dracula kind of vibe. So like was a good lesson in vampire lore or whatnot because it had all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is such a classic like vampire movie, but where it's like it kind of hits everything. Where it's like there's been a lot of liberties taken over the years, but this just feels like a tried and true. Like yeah, like garlic, holy water, the cross, all those things that like that really fuck them up. It is just also really fun to watch. Where it's like. I you kind of watch this guy like where he's like he realizes his relationship is falling apart, but he's also like, wait a second, like there's a vampire next door. High schooler doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Rear Window meets Dracula.
Yes. Well, what is it with the 80s and no one shuts their windows? Like, come on, like why just shut the window?
Especially if you're a vampire murdering women, you should learn to shut your
Right.
window.
Yeah, it doesn't blackout curtains are not that expensive. I'm sure they weren't that expensive back then. I don't know, get some shades, whatever. Just protect your peace as the kids say.
Yep.
Oh man. So I think you've touched on this a little bit too, but just like also like why do you love this movie? Like you like the vampire stuff and you're in the nostalgia of it, but like why is this a movie that sticks out for you is that you love?
I think it goes back to thinking of movies being unique, and I feel like
Mhm.
despite the fact that they did make it again, they would never make something like that time frame again.
Yeah.
Like, just thinking of the way it was able to kinda balance, like, horror and comedy, and I think, you know, the performances were pretty good. I mean, Chris Sarandon is,
Mhm.
not, like, a super well-known actor, but he's in the, like, Dog Day Afternoon, and then he would later go on to be
Yeah.
Child's Play, and he's actually I think he's brother with, like, Susan Sarandon. They're related. Look it up. I'm sure they're
Yeah, I was gonna say the last name. I
yeah,
was
I'm
like,
pretty
this
sure
can't
they're
not
related.
be related. Yeah.
But he had, so I'm not saying he's, like, the world's most amazing actor, but I just thought I liked his performance in it compared to, like, later seeing him more over the top. I just think, like, the way it's played is it's fun and interesting. I think I like that it was from, like, a high school point of view, like, I mean, he's also just, like, guy for a while was trying to get, like, laid and it's like that happens often that, like, he gets more interested in the vampire thing, but yeah, I don't know, like, it was just fun.
Yeah.
And it still does have a few good, like, creepy moments, but it's not like a full-on horror. It's a horror comedy, I like that about it.
Yeah, I feel you on that too. Where horror comedy, I think, is a great place to live. You know what I mean? Because I think Jordan Peele said this too, where it's like the only difference between horror and comedy is the music, because it's like the tension, and you have a payoff for it. And I'm like, that is so true. So I think that like there's just not enough of the horror comedy where I think it leans either too gratuitous or not funny. You know what I mean? And this one just kind of strikes that balance. Like this is really funny. This is very ridiculous, but also like yeah, like watching evil be a fucking vampire is horrifying because he comes out and he's just like but also it's funny because it's like, oh, this little dweeb, this like little pencil dick guy is like out here like a vampire now, you know?
Also, the actor who played him, I can't remember his name, he was such a weird, creepy dude, like, he was
Mhm.
not like, he's not a Christopher Vince Vaughn or whatever, he was
Yeah,
just, like,
I
a
know,
very
yeah.
like, somebody that you don't I don't know, he had a weird vibe and energy, and yeah, so I don't know, just kind of unique, and Roddy McDowall's, like, a classic actor who
Mm.
played um, the vampire slayer guy. He was,
Yes.
been around for a long time, and I do like that he was, like, a bumbling fake and, like, just yeah, it was fun. And then, like, even rewatching, there's things that I wouldn't have noticed once again as I was a kid, but I was like, "Why does he keep eating apples? Because he's a vampire." And
Yeah.
just things that I thought were weird choices, and I looked it up. It
Yeah.
was so funny to me. I read that, like, Chris Sarandon decided because there are fruit bats, and there could be, like, some fruit bat DNA.
Oh my god, so funny. Because I didn't understand it either. Oh my
No, I love
god.
that 'cause I was like, "Wait," and as a kid, I'm sure I didn't question why he was eating fruit all the time throughout the
Yeah.
but as an adult, I was like, "Why is he always eating, like, fruit or like, have an apple, biting into an apple?" And I thought that was amazing that he, like it was, like, an actor's choice based on bad research or something. I don't know. It
Yeah.
was his the
Holy cow.
so that's so weird. I think they kept the new one too, but I just think
Yeah.
that was a weird choice of the '80s and Chris Sarandon, and I like some weird stuff like that. I just love. I think it's
Me too. Or it's so good. I didn't even realize that because yeah, I think that Colin Farrell does eat like an apple, or he like bites into something when he's about to enter the house or whatever. Where I'm just like, I never clocked it with either one. Where I'm like, why? Like you can't digest like food. Like why are you eating this? It's like oh, a fruit. That makes us a fruit bat. Like I guess they can't eat something.
it doesn't make sense, Courtney, or is it just like, okay, that was a choice, and I'm here for you making that weird choice because
Right, is it like one of those things where it's like, what is it? Brad Pitt is always eating in every scene that he's in, you know what I mean? Like, he's always like that's a thing, like, he's always, like, eating, like, you watch, like, Ocean's 11, or you watch, like, anything, he's always, like, biting into something, and it's just like, oh, he's like, "That's a character choice I make." I'm like, "No, you probably just like craft services, honestly, dude."
he just like it's a long day. I need a snack. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, but to paint it off to write it off, it's like, "No, this is, like, my process, is like, I'm gonna, like, eat, like, a steak while I'm, like, talking about a heist movie." I'm like, "No, fuck off." You know what I mean? So I wonder but that's funny, like,
No, bat
I
DNA or something, bat
y
fruit bats. I don't
yeah, so I'm not for the bats, you know? And also, I mean, I get that bats and vampires are, like, correlated together, but I think bats are just so cute, you know?
they are cute. Very cute. I mean, they do have
Yeah,
babies. You have to watch out for that. But they're also really
they do.
bats are very important. They're like the only nighttime predator of insects. So if we didn't have bats,
Yeah.
we'd be eaten alive by mosquitoes or something. So
No, dude, I'm thinking about you've been to my house, I'm thinking about building, like, a bat house, like, putting it on the side of my house
mm,
because I just think they're so freaking cute, but also it's like but I realize, like, I have a cat and rabies could also be a bad thing, but also, like, she doesn't go outside, so it's
yeah.
fine, you know?
And they're not like swooping around biting cats. Just don't get one
No.
like stuck somewhere with your cat where
Right, where it's like, "Well, I guess I gotta bite this cat
don't
now, I
let
don't
your
know
cat
what."
like corner it somewhere because then the cat will be
Right,
feral. But yeah.
right, she's too fat and lazy to do that, she won't even pay any mind.
Then there you go. If she's not gonna go after the bat's probably not gonna go after her. So
Right. So I'm thinking, yeah, but also like it's funny that like bats and I mean, and I don't know a ton about I guess about like vampire lore where it's like why do they become bats? Because I think just bats are just so cuddly and cute. They're mammals too,
yeah.
you
Well,
know?
also sometimes they turn into wolves. And doesn't the
Yeah.
guy start to turn into like a wolf thing too in Fright Night? I don't know. There's also sometimes they turn into wolves or dogs or something. So I don't know.
Dogs. Yeah. It's like some sort of like weird, like four-legged thing. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know why it's bats or dogs, but that seems to be vampire lore.
Yeah, I don't either because it's like, but I guess it's like they just fly off, like they flutter off or whatever, and like that's it, you know? I mean, because they're nocturnal, that makes sense, I
It could
guess.
be.
But
Yeah, that could be why. We did not do enough
yeah,
vampire lore research before this.
no, this is what this is the podcast that you will not get that much accurate
We're
information
gonna
on.
make
Is
up
all
the
I'm saying.
idea that they're nocturnal and take that as fact. That is why.
Yes, that is, people come on podcasts and they have their producers who give stats during the show, and I'm like, no, I'm like, well, I actually don't remember what year this movie came out, but yeah, we'll talk about it.
It came out in the '80s. I'm sure it came out in the '80s. Good enough.
Yeah, that's literally what it's been like every episode where I'm like, I should probably like, do a little more research, but I'm like, no, just let the people talk. Let them hear what they want to hear. And if the audience, if they want to chime in, that offers engagement where they want to comment in on the whatever and be like, no, this is the year. Well, that offers engagement. So I that's my plan is like being ignorant. You
There
know what
you
I
go.
mean?
The audience can look it up for themselves and tell us.
Yes. They should tell us what's going on because it's like, why would we be experts just because we come up with the movie ideas?
We just watch the movies, okay? What's what we do over here?
Yeah, like, what do you like, why like, don't question the process here. Oh, man, so I am gonna ask you, so what are your so, between these 2 movies, and I think there are some correlations, but I wanna hear what correlation do you see between NeverEnding Story and Fright Night?
Ooh, okay. There's not a lot of correlation. Oh,
There's not a lot. There's some, I
but
feel like.
we can say again, they had to use practical effects, even though we've already talked about that, so I'm gonna go back to it.
Let's do it,
There
yeah.
was no digital effects at this time. They both show that I was obviously born in a certain era, so there's a
Mhm.
correlation of that. You can kinda audience can guess my age a little bit, approximately. Um, Also, I was thinking about you asking me if I still love them both today, and I was like, "Yes, I actually do," but I think it's because of nostalgia is a lot of it. There's just some
Mm,
comfort in watching them.
yeah,
So, they're both comfort movies for me because I can watch them and be like, "I remember watching these as a kid, and I still like them." Oh, that's good because sometimes you watch movies when you're a kid and you're like, "Oh, this wasn't good." But maybe it's a little, like,
dude.
comfortable, but I now see that's really bad, but I like
Mm,
that even if I can point out that NeverEnding Story doesn't fully make sense or it's weird or, like, why is he eating fruit? Didn't notice that as a kid, and Fright Night, like, they're movies that I still feel are very unique, interesting movies that can engage me, or I marvel at how, like, they don't make movies like this anymore.
yeah, and they really don't, and, like, those are all, like, points I was gonna touch on too. I also think, like, with both, like, the narrative of both movies, it's like you have kind of a reluctant protagonist, you know what I mean? Where it's like they're
No.
intrigued, but they're just like, "Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to go on the book and give her a name. Oh, I have to be the vampire killer," where it's like they're intrigued and they want to be part of this world and they want to, like, do this, but they also, like, are being held back until they are forced to, like, take action, and that was one of the takeaways that I had for it too.
That was great. I'm just like, I don't know, there are old movies that I like. So I like that you had a really smart, thoughtful answer to that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, the
Also,
protagonist.
they also came out around the same time because again, 1984, 1985, like, your movies had 1 year apart, so I think there was probably some overlap of, like, whatever was trending in Hollywood and in film that time, because I feel like everything in art is a response to whatever's going on in the real world, so I feel like,
Agreed.
the '80s is so nostalgic because of whatever was going on then. There's a certain aesthetic that's going on, whether it's, like, lack of, like, technology or just aesthetics, you know what I mean? That I think both movies, I think, are very I just see them both so similarly in this in that time period. 'Cause they feel '80s to me, but, like, not in a bad way, you know?
Well, and I would say too, could you say that both of them helped really, further careers? Because I think
Mhm.
Fright Night was Tom Holland's first,
Mhm.
not the actor, obviously.
Yeah. Not Spider-Man, not Mr. Zendaya.
But I think that was his directorial debut I remember reading because I was like, "Oh, he went on to do Child's Play and other
Mm.
things," but, and Wolfgang Peterson has done other films that are escaping me right now, but I wondered if those were, like, the earlier endeavors for or maybe Wolfgang Peterson, maybe that was his earliest foray into, like, Hollywood or American movies, but,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think they're both, like films that got the attention of for those directors, because Wolfgang Peterson would have been making German films, but maybe never knew
Mhm.
story got him more attention in Hollywood or something, so I don't know. That could have been interesting that they maybe were early projects for those directors. I don't know.
Yeah. I could see that too, and also that kinda makes sense too that I felt a little bit of the German new wave-ness of NeverEnding Story too, because I didn't realize he was German, the director, so that makes more
But
sense
he's
too.
gone on to make a lot more Hollywood movies, but I'm guessing that would have been an early yeah, he made, like, Air Force One, In the Line of Fire,
Oh.
Outbreak. I mean, he made a lot of The Perfect
Yeah.
that was the only thing I remember but, I mean, so he went on to become, like, a Hollywood director,
Yeah.
but
And I feel like that yeah, but that those all feel like they're jumping off points for both of them where it's like, "Here's this really weird thing.
okay.
You make it work," you know?
Neverending Story was his first English language film, so that's
Oh, I love that.
so,
And also, like,
they were launching films for people, I guess.
I w yes. That's another correlation. I would agree with that too, because they both feel just kinda like both movies. And I think this is like with like new directors or new any kind of emerging things where it's like there's an energy where it's like a frenetic energy where it's just like we have to make this work. If it doesn't work, what am I gonna do? So I feel like both movies kind of carry that energy of like this. I have a budget. I have actors. I can make this work. So it almost, and I feel like that comes off in the films too, where it's like you think about an early, like, Wes Anderson or Scorsese movie where it's like, "Oh, I have to make this work. I'm given 100 grand to make this movie, and I have to get my point across." And then now, like, they're both everyone is still very, like, great filmmakers, but they're like, "Oh, they're given a blank check." You know what I mean? And both of these movies feel like, "Oh, they were not given a blank check." And it's like, if you fuck this up, then you're not gonna ever work in Hollywood again, basically, you know?
Yeah, because if Fright Night was the first film for Tom Holland's, it must have done well enough to get him future films, and if
Yeah.
Peterson had been only making German films, they got to make this, then go on to make all these Hollywood films, it, worked out
Yeah.
for him, but that meant they didn't have a blank check to start.
Yeah. Which I think some directors could benefit from not having a blank check. 'Cause it's like, do movies need to be 5 hours long to get the point across? It's like, no, like, maybe cut the budget down a little bit, you know? I think, and I say this a lot on this podcast too, that I think directors who are given some constraints can make the best work because they have to. And I think as you're a theater director, you get it, where it's like, "Oh, we have to work with this. This is what we have. Well, how can we make this the best it can be?" And you just get creative with it, with your team and everything, and I think both of these movies are examples of that too.
I think that I'm always most proud of when we can make something out of almost nothing, so I think that
Yeah.
maybe that those directors felt the same way when they made these films.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember for the Christmas sketches that I did where it's like, we like your one note where it's like instead of like Michael dropping the whole tray of sandwiches, just like let it fall. And so you don't like make the noise. And I'm just like, that is such a good note where it's even more pathetic that he just doesn't even drop the whole thing, but he just dumps it on accident because he's such a sad sack. Not the person, the character that I wrote. Michael listens to these. I know he does.
So he will know he is not the sad sack, it was just the character.
No, but the character was just, like, notes that you give, and I think that it's, like, indicative of, like, you just doing a decade at this point of Gadabout where it's like, oh, like, you have a limited budget, you have limited, like, resources because you're doing stuff in, like, a dive bar, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's just so cool.
Like I said, it's always very, thrilling and fulfilling when you can figure out how to make it work with nothing. Now you can be like, "We are in a dive bar with me trying to not blow $1,000,000 uh, or money that I don't have on a production and hope people come see it." And then when they do, and it's, like, so funny and good, but it can be simple. I like to call us DIY scrappy theater. I
Yes.
That is what we are. And I
I love it. And do you feel that, like, with both of these movies and with movies in general, that you gravitate towards directors who are more indie or more scrappy because you can relate to that versus, like, like a I don't know, like the what is it, the Russo brothers or like a J.J. Abrams? They're all great, but, like, do you feel like you gravitate towards those movies because you're like, "Oh, I get it, and I can see how they pulled themselves up and they made it happen."
Um, yeah, I don't know if I always, like, correlate it to, like, my having to do the same thing or whatever, but I think that I do really still appreciate when I can tell that a film has, uniqueness, creativity, and scrappiness, or being resourceful. And some of the most interesting movies sometimes when people come out, I mean, like, when, like, Blair Witch was a thing and we're like, "Oh, it's amazing." It was so
Mm.
innovative at the time, right? Like, so it's
Yeah.
so cool when somebody can have a new concept that hasn't been done, or doesn't have to come from a big studio, and somebody figures out a way to pull it off like an indie movie. I really always appreciate that. It's 'cause I just
Me
think that,
too.
yeah, when you don't have those resources, but you can still get it together and make something cool that people haven't seen, I really appreciate that.
Me too. I don't know if you saw the movie, but, I know it's a more recent one, but Talk to Me, the A24 horror
Yeah.
movie with the embalm so same deal, practical effects, filmed in Australia, like, everything with that hand was, like, no CGI, limited budget. I think about that where I'm like, "That is so And it was truly horrifying as a movie. It was very upsetting to watch, but I'm like, "That is you don't need $100 million budget to make something like that," you
I
know?
watched that with my fingers over my eyes as well, because that was
Ugh.
but yeah, that was such a unique movie, and it was so exciting when something like that comes out, and it's a big deal, and it makes a bunch of money, and, of course, then the studio's like, "We'll make 4 more with a bigger budget," and you're like, "Don't do it," but, like,
No, please, yeah.
just give more
Like,
money to
no, this
another
is enough.
filmmaker to do something similar, but not the same thing again, like
Right. I feel like that and, like, Skinamarink that came out, like, recently too, also, like, very just yeah,
I
same
haven't
deal.
watched all that yet. I think that movie sounds scary and also a
Oh,
lot, so I started to put it on one night and was like, "I'm too tired and scared, I'm not gonna watch this," but I've heard mixed things, and I'm very curious.
yeah, I liked it, it was a lot. Like, I was just like, it's a lot, but also a lot to like, I mean, a lot to think about too, at least for me, where I'm just like, "Okay, like, I'm taking this in, I get the subtext of all this too," but also I'm like, "But this is also kind of upsetting to watch." So I think I started it, then I just paused it, but I'll go back to it eventually, but I feel like yeah, horror, I think, really like, the finger on the pulse with, like, low budget, but being innovative that I think other genres, I think, kinda struggle with, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I don't know why that is either, you know, like, as people who as both of us who are indie producers and do things like that, where it's like, I don't understand why horror, which ostensibly would cost more for, like, practical effects and for, like, all the things that you would need, even the set design, where it's like, you need, like, a haunted house, like, where are you gonna find this? You have to pay money, for a place in East Nashville to film or whatever. It's like it's just interesting to me, you know?
I just think horror has been a very interesting genre in that there's always been people excited to make horror films, and there's always people trying to
Mhm.
weigh, and that's like found footage became a thing after Blair Witch, but there's still people
Mm.
making cool found footage stuff sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
you think, like, how can you continue to make cool films that are found footage? But I have a friend who, is really into found footage and has been making found footage horror films that are awesome. He,
Yeah.
is just still able to come up with really cool stories and tell stuff. He made this cool one called Chest that was set out in East Tennessee where people find a chest in a cave, and it was still very, like, creepy and interesting, and then,
Yeah.
like, but found footage is just one example. There's, like, like, Smile was a huge deal when it came out, right? And
Yes.
then, of course, I made Smile 2, which I just did not think was as good, but that I think was, like,
Yeah.
an early original idea that got lots of good publicity and became a huge thing. Talk to Me was huge when it came out.
Mm,
Small
mhm.
val just people are able to get some buzz around horror films and do cool things that they can't figure out in other genres anymore, like indie films are or like, you see the film
Yeah.
when, Mark Duplass it's, Creep,
Mm,
other yeah,
yes.
I guess is I'm guessing talking a lot of found footage, but there's beyond that, there's others, like, people are able to do really cool stuff in horror, I think, so.
I agree, and I think that horror probably has a little bit more of a leeway where it's like you think about like, oh, like you make like a mid-budget rom-com, people are gonna write that off and
Mhm.
not be like, "Oh, well, I'll go see that," whatever. Even though people want rom-coms, they don't wanna invest in them, where it's like a horror movie, it's like, well, we know the sickos and the depraved people will go and see whatever comes out. I think it's how studio execs think about this, which is partially true, but also like, no, but like we're there for like the story and for the excitement of it all. But I wonder if that's maybe like the bar is a little bit different for that kind of stuff, you know?
Well, I think you can have such fun, like, buzz and campaigns being like, "It's the scariest movie
Yeah.
ever," or like, "Oh, I screamed," so, like, you can really build fun marketing around horror or just get,
Mm,
like, buzz around it that you cannot do the same way with, like, "They found love so good in the rom-com," like, like,
right.
horror has a lot more opportunity to be fun, and then there's just lots of people excited about horror movies. That's why there's horror
There
conventions
are.
and there's not rom-com conventions I'm aware of. I guess there's, like,
Yeah.
book conventions probably, like
Right, book talk, all that stuff, but not quite the same as, like, horror, like, I mean, I feel like Terrifier kinda came out of nowhere, and those all just being fully independently I've not seen any of those movies,
I
I have no interest in seeing them,
same or
I'm honest.
same,
Yeah,
but yes, they're huge.
yeah.
Don't think they're gonna be my thing. I've been holding off on those, so
I just don't think I'm gonna be into it, but also I can't deny that it's like they're all independently produced, like, they all have, like, made a ton of money, and I'm like, "Alright," so, like, there is something there, you know, for all of that, and, like, this horror can go a little south for me sometimes, you know what I
mhm.
mean? Where it's like, I really never I don't ever wanna watch Human Centipede ever again, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I one time watched, like, a few minutes and was like, "No, I don't care. I don't need that.
Dude.
I don't need that out of horror. I want it either to be, like, good old-fashioned scary or to be a good horror comedy or a good slasher film, whatever, but I don't need it to be
Yeah.
all those things."
Which I which I'm curious, and this also ties into Fright Night a little bit too, but did you see Annabelle when it came out last year?
No. I am
You would love
behind
it.
on some of the Conjuring universe.
Oh, no, no, this is oh, no,
Oh,
Abigail, not
Abigail.
Annabelle, Abigail. Sorry, Abigail, so sorry.
I did
Abigail.
love Abigail. I see, I also do think I like vampire stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I thought Abigail very much reminded me of Fright Night with the humor and with, like, the lore and also, like the all the rules of her being a vampire, like coming out late, sunlight, garlic stick to the heart, all those things, and also, like, I just thought it was so good.
I love they reference the whole scene in there where they're like, "What do we know about vampires?" They're like, "Well, it depends on the vampire." Like, they kinda talk about that idea of, like, vampires can be, like, fluid, you don't know what rules apply, and I thought that was
Yeah.
clever in that. No, I thought that was so much fun. Love that.
I did too. That was, like, one too where I was hoping I mean, I went and saw it in theater with our friend Jessica Carter. She was like, "You wanna go see this vampire movie?" I'm like, "Do I? Of course I do." And it was so much fun where I'm like, "Why wasn't there more like, is there a second one? Is there, like, what's going on?" Like, I mean, a vampire ballerina, like, what a great concept, you know?
As soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, "Vampire ballerina, I am in," and so, yeah,
Yeah.
I was totally in.
Because vampires are so yeah, they're so, elegant, you know?
They're yeah, and they're fascinating. I don't know why they're fascinating, that we all want immortality and to be,
Mhm.
like, sexy vampires or whatever, but then you're it's not, you can't go out in daytime and you look gross sometimes or turn into a bat or who knows, vampires are, like, a crazy
Right.
thing, but did you see that, I can never say the title because it's long and weird and funny, but it's like the humanist vampire seeking suicidal person or
I
whatever.
love I am like the of Jehovah's Witness for that
That's
movie.
so good. It's so good. It's so
Oh,
funny. And then
yeah.
also I was like,
It's so
"Oh,
good.
yeah. Okay, great." Speaking of great vampire movies of recent
Yes.
time, Abigail
Oh,
and that.
yes. I'm obsessed with humanist vampire seeking consensual yeah, humanist vampire seeking consensual suicidal person. I think that's the it's so good. It's like Amelie meets like fucking What We Do in the Shadows. You know what I mean?
So
It's
good. That's
so
great.
good.
Yes.
And it's just like and it's really funny and it's sweet where it's just like, oh, this vampire is like she needs to live, but also she doesn't want to kill anyone. And I'm like, wow, like I don't know, good like metaphor for like people who are like vegetarians, I guess too. But then this kid who's just like, yeah, I want to fucking die. Can you kill me? And I'm
Sad
like, oh,
and dark a little bit too.
yeah, also I can relatable. Also, like, I mean, there's been times I'm like, man, if a vampire came along and wanted to just drink my blood, I'm like, yeah, I have a lot of debt that I can't pay off. So by all means. Please, I can't go bankrupt right now, so, like, just kill me now and let it be defaulted to whoever. I have no dependents, you know?
So there you go. Vampire movies can still be innovative. It falls within like that of
Yes.
horror or found footage or people you can still take a thing that's been done a million times and a million
Mhm.
movies about it and come up with a unique concept. So
I agree. It's so good. I'm so glad that you brought that movie up because I don't think it's gonna show up on anybody's, like, picks for this podcast, but it is one that is worthy of being discussed, you know?
it's really great. So I'm glad we could talk vampire movies and bring it up.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad. I just ordered a Lost Boys t-shirt from Old Navy. I was like, "Oh, it's $10. Yeah, I need some new underwear and socks. Yeah, let's just add to the cart."
Talk about a core movie memory for a lot of people. That movie is still
Oh,
like
yeah. It's so scary, but so sexy. Like, how do they do it? You know?
and then there's like a guy who runs a video store who's also like a
Yeah.
vampire or something. So it's wow, yeah. On the boardwalk,
Well
get out and at
dude,
the
which I
beach,
were
what a world.
literally, I'm like, "Oh my goodness," like, this could be anywhere. This could be fucking Ocean City, Maryland. This could be anywhere, you know? This could be Myrtle Beach. Who knows? I do think because there's a store that you told me about that was like, what is it? The morning Good Morning or something here in
Oh,
Nashville?
Morning Brew?
I have not been yet, but I it's on my list of places I gotta go because you have that really cute little ghost
I
purse that
know,
you
I
had for
just took that out the other night. Yeah, it's really cute. It's a small shop, but you just go in and it's
yeah.
very cute. I bet they've got a lot. I've been meaning to go check it out this month because they do fun things, like, I think I bought something and put a postcard in my thing I could have mailed back, or they put in the store and they have, like, a haunted things. Just anyway, they do for being such a small little store, they have some really cool little quirky things they do and just cute stuff, so Papa.
Hell yeah. I'm definitely down. I love any of the little spooky shops they have around town. Although I do think some of the stuff I have from Hale is probably haunted, so I'm probably just kicking myself at this point, you know?
You do a haunted shopping afternoon and go there and then go to Hill
Yes.
and, like, yeah.
Go to Morning Brew and then go to the video store over by the plant shop over at yeah,
And then you
all the
could go to, like,
snackable
some of the
spots.
Halloween pop-up bars. So I went out to the
Yes.
vampire bar and the hidden bar, the other night.
Oh, how was that?
Speaking of
Did
vampires,
did you love it?
I mean, it was very cool inside. I was joking that I wanted somebody to open a bar that just looked like this all year round, but not have $20 cocktails.
That.
Like, 'cause the vibe inside was so great, but then you're like, "Oh, I had to park or get an Uber downtown and the cocktails were $20." They did have
Dude,
blood bags, which were fun, but I didn't get one because 'cause I'd gone to New Orleans earlier this year and had a blood bag in New Orleans.
yeah.
That was less
Oh, yeah, dude.
downtown hotel blood bags. But
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I would love to plan at some point, like, a Halloween, like, bar crawl, maybe next year. I don't know if, like, maybe a Gadabout Theater presents, like, and we do a 5 points, like, bar crawl or something. I don't know, because 'cause I'm planning a Wes Anderson one right now for the winter
oh, I
time.
know, I
So, I'm
saw
tr
that, and I
yeah.
definitely would like to come to that.
Yeah, I think so far, I think we maybe have Rosemary and Beauty Queen in there, it's like because I guess the owner and all the bar staff loves, like, Wes Anderson, so I'm like, "Okay, that's an easy one." So, but I think, like, a horror one with blood bags and, like, with, like, candy, the fake thing, teeth, all those things. I think it'd be like, adult trick-or-treating would be really fun, like, around bars, you know what I mean?
Mm. Well, it's too bad because there's so many Halloween pop-up ones, but I don't think they're, like, where you can just, like, walk to most of them, so you'd have to just
I agree,
figure out, but yeah, maybe.
I think, like, maybe next year, like, adult trick-or-treating, you know what I mean? Like, and get some because I mean, we do, like you do, like, Rosemary, you do, like, Beyond the Edge, and, like, you just kinda go around and, like, maybe bars have candy and, like, I don't know, that could be really fun.
That could be fun, yeah. I think there's
Yeah,
something there.
I think
Got
so too.
a puppet show at a puppet slasher show at Springwater. We'll do
Yes.
next Halloween, and then we'll plan a Halloween bar crawl. They're all part
Oh
of
my god,
the deal. It's
yes.
all, like, next October.
Yeah, next October, you have a puppet slasher show at Springwater. We're gonna have a bar crawl where you get blood bags for not that expensive, and you can get candy and all those things. And then, yeah, like I don't see the problem with any of the. I don't see how this would be hard for anyone to play.
We'll just we'll get permits to walk around drinking blood bags of alcohol in the city of Nashville. It'll be fine.
Yeah, let's just here. Here's what you gotta do: is you gotta unleash another worldwide pandemic where people can drive home with alcohol, like we did from Rose Pepper. I think, and then we're good. You
Perfect.
know, just like that movie that Gwyneth Paltrow's in, where it's like, what is it like? Where it's like the pandemic movie. I don't know.
Contagion?
You know what I'm talking
Oh, wait,
about.
is that
Contagion.
yeah,
Yeah, it came out and like yeah, we just got to remake that movie. Also remake 28 Days Later, and then we'll get our alcohol for free.
'cause they're
You
zombie
know.
oh, yeah, zombies are always, like, pandemic-y or, like, chemical related.
Yeah.
They're always, like, because we released a chemical or there was a
Mhm.
virus and then the dead bodies rose, so yeah.
Right, so I think we could do that. I think if we just make that happen in real life, and then people will be able to we can do all of our creative dreams. Is, what's holding us back are some regulations from the law? That's stupid.
That is stupid. We'll figure out a way around that. I'm not gonna get a
Yeah,
call if a contagion breaks out next year.
right. We're scrappy indie producers. Um but I to we're kind of at time now, which I could talk to you about this stuff forever and ever, but also I have to edit this, so I try to keep it to an hour. That's my only reason why I cut it off at an hour because I'm like, I otherwise it would be 5 hours long.
And
I do have a
podcasts
couple.
should not be 5 hours long, so an hour is the
No,
goal. Do it.
we don't need the Snyder cut of this podcast. You know what I mean?
Quit
We don't need to be
Tarantino's podcast.
literally, when I be watching through a peephole on, like, how like, the aspect ratio is crazy on this. We don't need that. So I have a few more questions for you. So, for both I think this can apply to both movies, kind of. Well, maybe more to Fright Night, but I'll see what you think. So, if you had to recast the entire movie for both movies, but with all Muppets, but keep one human being, who would it be for both movies?
Oh, wow. That's
I know.
so tough. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry with NeverEnding Story, which is the hardest.
Yeah,
I think I'll get the
it
answer
is the
later on Fright
hardest.
Night. Um, so everybody else is a Muppet. Which
Mhm.
actually is kinda weird for NeverEnding Story because there are only, like, 3 humans in it. Everybody
Right,
else is
right.
basically a Muppet.
But if you had to make, like, Miss Piggy the dragon or something like that, so, like, what humans I guess, like yeah,
Oh,
they're
like,
only,
the
like, 3
Muppets,
humans.
or the, puppet,
The brand, the
are
Muppets, yeah.
replaced by actual Muppets.
Mhm.
Hmm. I'm gonna still keep Falcor 'cause he's my
Yeah, that's
favorite.
good.
I love Falcor.
Oh. Oh, yeah. And also, like, that would be very funny to watch him interact off of, like, Muppets the
Just
whole time.
like, you're just laughing. It's just like
Yeah. I was like, "Keep going."
just gonna watch Falcor hang out with the Muppets. Okay.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And then for Fright Night, who would you pick?
Okay. I thought that was easier. Well, I don't know.
I know.
Um, there's part of me that's still, like, thinking from, like, a film angle, like, is it more compelling if the vampire is a human and everybody else is Muppets, or should it be like Charlie's a
Mm.
human and everybody else is Muppets? But let's see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that I will keep I will keep I'm gonna pick Roddy McDowell's Peter Vincent, the vampire
Yeah.
slayer, to be the human acting among all the Muppets. So
Oh, that's gonna be amazing.
that's what I'm gonna go for.
Oh, that's so good. Just like and him just being like reacting off of these Muppets, just being like, I well, no, like you have to use like I just this is just tap water. I don't know what you're
It's like, "You
talking
can
about. Oh
tell
my
me
god, that'd
or
be
whatever." I don't know, when he's, like,
yeah, come
coming at
on,
them.
no.
And
When it's just like a handful of Muppets just like running up to him, you know. The Count Dracula is just the only Muppet in the whole movie.
oh my gosh, 'cause the Dracula is just gonna be but he's just eating apples and, like,
He's like,
missing.
I want to drink your blood and also count to 10.
Yeah, I can't replace Chris Sarandon, or I have to replace Chris Sarandon because Dracula the Count can be him.
Yeah.
The Count
The
from
Count,
Muppets can be the vampire.
oh my god, that's so funny.
But I think
It's
there's,
like,
like, scenes of him, like, making out with women at a window, and, like,
yes.
I just, like,
Oh my
now picturing
god.
the Count from Sesame Street, like, sexually making out with a woman right before he bites her neck at a window, so
I
I'm happy with
know,
my choice.
right? Oh my god, that's so funny. That's like it's like picturing like this like Muppet just like oh god, that's an amazing choice. Yes. Stephanie, this was amazing. This was so much fun. Please tell the audience where they can find you and what you got coming up.
Oh my gosh. Well, Gadabout Theater is on the social medias of Instagram, Facebook. Find us at Gadabout Theater. We ended up not doing anything big this fall. Have some fun things we have in mind for next year. But now I've got to add this puppet slasher production and Barker All it sounds like too. So who knows? Look for that. See if we're gonna do that. I've talked to Courtney about doing some stuff she's been writing. It's great. I don't know.
Yeah,
We've got some fun stuff coming up next year. Hopefully have a really fun anti-drug PSA, silly, make fun of PSA night in the spring and coming. I'm
yes.
still in the works, but yeah. So follow at Gadabout Theater. Um, I'm also on social media, but not as interesting as Gadabout. So just follow Gadabout. It's fine.
Hell yeah.
See what we've got coming up.
Hell yeah. No, I love it. Follow Get About Theater. I mean, and audiences, I'm privileged to have worked with Get About Theater a few times, and it's just been so much fun. So like, if you live in Nashville, or if you don't, you want to go on a weekend trip to go see some black box theater, you should do that. Honestly, go to Morgan Wallen's bar. Don't go there. Don't go there. That was a joke. Don't go there. Yeah. No, go to Mickey's if you wanna see some real good Nashville, maybe go to Pearl Diver, and then go see a Gadabout Theater show. Come into town and stay at the Waymore Hotel or wherever, and do your thing. But Stephanie, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for doing the show tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and letting me nerd out about movies. That
Oh,
was so fun.
literally anytime. Again, if I didn't have to edit it, this would be 3 days long because we could just talk about every single movie under the sun. This has been Core Memory, a podcast about movies, and I'm your host, Cortney Warner. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Please feel free to like and subscribe on anywhere that you get your podcasts. Would absolutely love the support on there. If you enjoyed today's episode and any of our other episodes, also we are on Instagram at Core Memory Pod. Please feel free to give us a follow on there as well if you want any behind the scenes tidbits or any kind of fun visuals on there. And again, thank you for listening, and we hope that you'll listen again soon.